Hello everyone. We are in the 30th lecture session of the course Engineering Thermodynamics. In our previous lecture, we have completed our discussion almost on the all the kinds of power cycles. First, we have discussed about vapor power cycles, and later on we have talked about the gas power cycles. And in gas power cycles, in particular, we talked about Brayton cycle, Otto, diesel, and Diol cycles. Okay. Now today we will talk about some another kind of devices which we call as nothing but refrigeration cycle. So you all know the basic definition of refrigeration. So basic definition of refrigeration is nothing but it is basically if we have to maintain our system below the surrounding temperature, then we call our system as our process as nothing but refrigeration process. Okay, and the thermodynamic cycle which will be employed for this purpose, we call that refrigeration cycle. Okay, now while we will be talking about the refrigeration cycle, we will be employing our throttling device in refrigeration systems. So that throttle device is actually having some specific feature which is based on the Joule-Thomson effect. So near the end of the lecture, we will also introduce the concept of Joule-Thomson coefficient. Okay. So if I talk about refrigeration, I have already also introduced to you all. So just let me brief over here. So what we are having in case of refrigerator, we are having some cold refrigerated space. So this is the space which we want to maintain at temperature. So this is say TL temperature, and this will be less than the surrounding temperature. Okay. So that is what we want to do in case of refrigeration. And in order to do so, what we do, we remove some QL amount of heat. And because we are removing this amount of heat from low temperature to some warm environment, so that's why we have to supply certain amount of work over here, okay, to this refrigerator. So QH is the amount which is rejected, and this is rejected to the warm environment. So if I say TH is temperature over here, so this TH is nothing but almost equal to surroundings temperature. Okay, then if I talk about heat pump, over here the operation is same, that we have to take heat from low temperature and we have to supply it to high temperature, but the idea is different. Over here we want to maintain our space. So this is our space, so I want to maintain this space at some temperature TH, and this temperature TH has to be above than the surrounding temperature. Okay, and what we are doing, we are taking heat from some cold environment, and this cold environment, if I say it is having temperature TL, that will be nothing but equal to T surroundings. Okay, and here also we are transferring heat from low temperature to high temperature, so that's why we will be requiring certain amount of work input over here. Okay, then if I talk about in terms of the COP of the refrigerator, so we define by using symbol beta. So we have already seen that COP of refrigerator is nothing but QL divided by QH minus QL. And if I write the COP of the Carnot refrigerator, which is having all the processes as completely reversible, then I can write TL divided by TH minus TL. Okay. Similarly, if I write the coefficient of performance for heat pump device, so that we write in terms of symbol beta dash. Okay, and beta dash will be nothing but equal to QH divided by QH minus QL. And for Carnot cycle, for Carnot heat pump device, we will be having COP as TH divided by TH minus TL. Okay, so this we have seen earlier. Now when we like see the performance of our refrigerator, or if we see the capacity of a refrigerator, for example, if we are having our fridge in our home, so what we do, we are having certain capacity of that fridge. Okay, similarly, if we are having some air conditioning device, so that is also having air conditioning unit is also having some capacity in terms of that what kind of or what size of room actually it can maintain at the desired condition. Okay, so the capacity of refrigerator and heat pump devices is actually quantified in terms of tons of refrigeration. So we are having one unit, ton of refrigeration, Okay, so this is one unit for quantifying the capacity of our refrigerators and air conditioning units. For example, if you go to market, you will be finding that ACs are available of capacity 1 ton, 1.5 ton, 2 ton, 3 ton. So depending upon the size of the space which we want to maintain at desired conditions, we have to actually choose appropriate capacity, and that capacity is normally available in tons of refrigeration. So now let me explain what is the definition of ton of refrigeration. Okay, so the ton of refrigeration basically refers to as the amount of heat. So for example, if I consider first 1000 kg of water, okay, and if I consider this 1000 kg of water at 0 degrees Celsius in liquid state. So what I have done, I have considered that I have 1000 kg of water at 0 degrees Celsius and this is in liquid state. Now if this water I have to convert into, if I have to convert this 1000 kg of water into all the amount, I have convert it into ice. Okay, so this I have to convert into ice, and while I am converting it into ice, that ice also I am maintaining at 0 degree Celsius only. Okay, but this entire process of conversion from liquid water to ice, if we are doing in 24 hours duration. Okay, so whatever the rate at which we have to remove the amount of heat, that we will be defining as ton of refrigeration only. Okay, so what I have, the definition of ton of refrigeration. So if we are having 1000 kg of water in the liquid state at 0 degrees Celsius, if I have to convert that water into ice at same temperature 0 degrees Celsius, and if I do this process in 24 hours, then whatever the rate at which I have to remove the heat out of water. Okay, because when I am converting the liquid into solid, ice is actually the solid phase of water. Okay, so if I am converting water from liquid state to solid phase, I have to remove certain amount of heat from the liquid. Okay, so that amount of heat should be equivalent to heat of fusion of that substance. So that's why if I take out the amount equivalent to heat of fusion, then my 100 or 1000 kg of water will be converting into ice. And if I do this process in 24 hours, then whatever the rate at which I have to take out the heat from water, that rate we define as nothing but our tons of refrigeration. Okay, so if I quantify this amount of heat, so this rate of heat Q dot will be nothing but equal to 1000 is our mass. Okay, times, now we have to use over here heat of fusion. So H fusion we have to supply. Okay, so this is the heat of fusion, means amount of heat which is required to convert solid into liquid state. Okay, at constant temperature condition, that we call as nothing but heat of fusion. So that's why if we have to convert liquid into ice, so amount equivalent to that of heat of fusion we have to actually take out of that substance. Okay, so that's why if I have to calculate the amount of heat transfer, I can write Q dot as nothing but equal to 1000 into heat of fusion divided by, so heat of fusion will be having unit in kilojoule per kg. So heat of fusion will be having unit in kilojoule per kg divided by, if I write over here 24 hours, if I convert into minutes, so 24 into 60. Okay, so finally if I calculate, I will be finding, so this is the definition for tons of refrigeration. So if I calculate this entire amount by substituting heat of fusion over here, I will be finding 1 ton of refrigeration as nothing but equal to 210 kilojoule per minute. Okay, so that will be 1 ton of refrigeration, and if I convert it into kilojoule per second, so 1 ton of refrigeration will be coming as 3.51 kilojoule per second. Okay, so this is how we quantify the capacity of air conditioning unit or refrigerating units. Okay, while even we go into market to purchase, we have to see this, or we have to equivalent capacity is actually provided in tons of refrigeration. Okay, now we know the fundamental basis of any of the device is nothing but our Carnot cycle. So for power producing units, what we are having, our Carnot cycle actually operates in certain direction. Okay, and we know that all the processes of Carnot cycle are completely reversible. So if all the processes are completely reversible, we can easily easily reverse the path of this entire cycle. Okay, so the basis for ideal refrigeration cycle is nothing but reversed Carnot cycle. Okay, so in case of reversed Carnot cycle, what will be happening? If you recall to our power Carnot cycle, we were having some boiler over here, and in the boiler we were adding certain amount of heat. Here we were having turbine, and this turbine was doing certain amount of work. Here we were having condenser, and in the condenser we were actually rejecting certain amount of work. And here we were having some pump, and this pump was requiring certain amount of input work, and it was actually it was compressing our saturated liquid state. Okay, over here. So now if you consider the reverse of the Carnot cycle, then here in power cycle actually we were removing certain amount of heat. So in case of refrigeration cycle, what we have to do now, because we have to achieve the process in reverse manner, so instead of removing the heat, we have to add certain amount of heat. Okay, and this heat removal we were doing in between the liquid vapor regime. So that's why our vapor was changing into liquid phase. Over here also, if we are adding heat in the liquid vapor regime, our liquid will be converting into vapor phase. Okay, so now what we are having, when our liquid is actually converting into vapor phase, we will be calling this device as nothing but evaporator. Okay, and we are saying this evaporator is maintained at temperature TL. Now when I am talking about the reverse Carnot cycle, so all the processes has to be completely reversible. So that's why the cold medium from where we are getting this heat, that cold medium also I am saying is at temperature TL. Okay, so when both are at temperature TL, it means we are having external reversibility also. Okay, and internal reversibility we can ensure because we are in the liquid vapor phase regime. So that's why our temperature within the evaporator of the working substance will always be TL. Okay. Now, if you see, we were having over here turbine. So now in place of turbine, what we have to do? We have to employ compressor, because earlier in power cycle, we were expanding medium from high pressure to low pressure. Now we have to move in the opposite direction. So we have to move from low pressure to high pressure. So that's why we have to use compressor over here. And this compressor will be requiring certain amount of work input at the rate of W dot C. Okay. So this is 2 to 3 is compression process. Then we used to have boiler at high pressure. So boiler was actually, in the boiler we were adding certain amount of heat. So now instead of boiler we have to actually reject some amount of heat. So while we are rejecting the heat, we will be having over here condenser. Okay, and QH amount of heat we are rejecting. Once again over here you can see condenser and warm medium are having same temperature TH in order to have completely reversible situation. Okay, and then in this process 1 to 4, earlier we used to have pump which used to increase the pressure. Now we will be having turbine which will be actually decreasing the pressure and bringing back this working medium to our initial condition at the inlet of the evaporator. Okay, so for that purpose we are having turbine over here, and turbine will be doing certain amount of work at the rate of W dot T. Okay. Now if I show you the cycle on the TS diagram, all the different processes, so you can see this temperature along ordinate, and along abscissa we are having entropy, and this is our liquid vapor dome. So in this liquid vapor dome, this is our point number 1 to 2. So point number 1 to 2 is actually constant temperature heat addition. Then we are having 2 to 3 as isentropic compression process. Then 3 to 4 we are having constant temperature heat rejection, and then 4 to 1 we are having actually isentropic expansion. Okay, now what will be happening, if you see over here, so this reversed Carnot cycle once again has some of the challenges. So like in case of Carnot cycle, it was not practically possible. Over here also we are having certain issues associated, which because of which this is also not practically feasible. Okay. So like we were having certain challenges in Carnot power cycle. Over here also we are having a few challenges. Some of the challenges are almost similar and some are actually new. Okay, so one important thing you can see over here, this point number 2, we are having at the inlet to the compressor, and at this point number 2 we are having actually mixture of liquid plus vapor. Okay, so the mixture of liquid plus vapor is actually very difficult to compress or difficult to increase its pressure, because we are having some device for liquid, we are having some device for the vapor phase, but we are not having any device which can compress the mixture of both liquid and vapor. Okay, so this is one of the challenge. And another challenge, I already told you that if we have to very precisely control the thermodynamic state within our liquid vapor design, that is actually very difficult, because while we design the heat exchanger systems, evaporator or condenser systems, phase change phenomenon is involved inside the condenser or evaporator tube. So because of that, we are having a very chaotic and complex situation of flow and heat transfer, because of which it is not always possible to precisely design the device for achieving some thermodynamic state change. Okay, that is another challenge. And one more point, like if you see over here, what we are doing, during this 2 to 3 process, we have to add certain amount of work at the rate of W dot C, and in this 4 to 1 process, we are having over here one turbine, and this turbine will be actually doing some work at the rate of W dot T. Okay, now one important point, we know this turbine and compressor are nothing but open systems. So in case of open system, we know that amount of work done, okay, is nothing but equal to, or the rate of work done is nothing but equal to minus m dot into integral of VdP. Okay, so this is the rate of work done. So it means you can say that work done is nothing but proportional to specific volume. Okay, so over here, if you see at point number 4, we are having nothing but saturated liquid. Okay, and this saturated liquid is actually bending over the turbine, and it is doing, say, it is decreasing the pressure at the same point of time. Say it is doing some W dot T amount of work. Okay, so now if you see, specific volume of point number 4 will be very, very small. Okay, so why it will be very small? Because state number 4 is in the liquid phase. We know in the liquid phase we are having actually high density of the substance. So specific volume is actually reciprocal of the density. So at point number 4, our specific volume will be very, very small. So when we are expanding very small specific volume substance over here, what will be getting? Whatever the turbine work we will be getting during this process, that turbine work will be almost negligible. Okay, so the turbine work, whatever we will be getting, that will be almost negligible. Another challenge we are having over here, during this 4 to 1 process, we are operating majorly in the wet region. Okay, so if you can see, during this 4 to 1 process, we are having major amount of liquid over here. So majorly we are operating this 4 to 1 process in the wet region. So because of this, we will be having actually challenge from the health point of view of the turbine also. Okay, so there are like 2 challenges. One, we are operating the turbine in the wet region, and another challenge we are having that the specific volume of the substance, either in the saturated liquid state, or if I go in the subcooled regime also. So in the subcooled regime also, specific volume will be very, very small because liquid is having very high density. So because of that, whatever the work from the turbine I will be getting, that work will be negligible. Okay, so the amount of work will be very, very small. So because of the small amount of work, whatever the cost which we are putting on installation of the turbine, that will not be justified with the amount of work whatever we are getting. Okay, so turbine is actually very costly. So apart from turbine, if we go for some simple device, in that case we will be saving the cost also, and at the same point of time, what we have to do, we also want to do this expansion process. So you know, one of the simple device we have discussed earlier is nothing but our throttling device. Okay, so in case of throttling device also, we can actually decrease the pressure from high pressure to a low pressure, and the construction of throttling device is very simple. So that's why the cost of throttling device is actually not huge, whereas the cost of the turbine is actually significant. Okay, so we can install turbine, but if we are getting some fruitful outcome, means if we are getting some significant amount of work which justifies the cost. But over here, the characteristic behavior of the working substance is that it is having very small specific volume. So that's why it will only give us negligible amount of work. And if we include irreversibilities also, then because of the friction in between the bearing and turbine shaft and other components, we may have to provide additional power in order to run the turbine. Okay, so that's why what we want to do in our practical cycle, first thing we want to do is we want to shift this point number 2 to our saturated vapor state, so that we are having compressor inlet in the single phase design. Okay, and another thing we want to do, instead of turbine, now we want to employ over here some simplified device which can achieve this expansion process. Okay, and it's not having much cost. Okay, so throttle is actually replacement for turbine. So this is now our ideal vapor compression refrigeration cycle. So this is mainly employed in our devices, refrigerators, and air conditioning units. Okay, so in case of ideal vapor compression cycle, you can see evaporator we are having as it is, compressor also we are using identical to that of our Carnot cycle, condenser also. But in Carnot cycle, during this 3 to 4 expansion, earlier we were using turbine. Now over here we are using some expansion valve. Okay, so now one more important point, I told you that at the exit of the evaporator, we will try to reach till our saturated vapor state, so that our compressor can easily handle the working substance. Okay, so that is what we have done over here. So you can see this is my point number 1 in the saturated vapor state. Then 1 to 2 we are doing isentropic compression, and after isentropic compression, then during 2 to 3 we are having actually heat rejection inside the condenser. So initial part of heat rejection we are having some sensible heat loss, and then we are having over here some latent heat loss, which will be changing the phase from vapor phase to liquid phase. Okay, and at point number 3, if we were using the turbine, in that case we could have this expansion process from 3 to 4 days, because in the turbine expansion is nothing but isentropic. So this 3 to 4 days line is nothing but corresponding to turbine, and this line 3 to 4 is actually corresponding to throttling device, because in the throttling device, what will be happening in the throttling device, we will be having actually generation of entropy, and enthalpy remains constant. So over here you can see whatever the enthalpy of point H3 we are having, same will be the enthalpy of point number 4. So I can write H4 as nothing but equal to H3, but we will be having some entropy generation from point number 3 to 4. So that's why one important point I would like to tell you, that we should, while we are showing this process 3 to 4, we should show it with the dashed lines. We should not show it with a solid line, because solid line we normally use for showing the reversible processes, as process number 3 to 4 is an irreversible process. So that's why we should show this process 3 to 4 with the dashed lines. Okay. Now, one important point you can see over here, while actually if we were using the turbine, then upon using the turbine we were having evaporator process from 4 dash to 1, and while we have shifted from turbine to our throttling device, we are having now evaporator process from 4 to 1. Okay, so this has actually decreased certain amount of refrigeration effect. So how it has decreased refrigeration effect, that let me explain. Okay, before that, let me just first give you the description of different processes. So 1 to 2 process over here is nothing but isentropic. This is our isentropic compression process. Then 2 to 3 we are having constant pressure heat rejection. Then we are having process number 3 to 4 as isenthalpic, this we are having isenthalpic expansion, and then I have process number 4 to 1 as constant pressure heat addition. Okay, so these are the different processes in our ideal vapor compression refrigeration cycle. This is also known as VCRS system. Okay, so now if you apply the equation, steady flow energy equation, to your different devices, let me first take nothing but our evaporator. So in case of evaporator, what will be happening? We know that QL, I am writing this equation on per unit mass basis. So in the evaporator, we are adding QL amount of heat. So QL minus W. So W, we will be having integral of VdP, because evaporator is nothing but an open system. Okay, this will be, then we are adding certain amount of enthalpy. So we are adding enthalpy at the rate of H4 minus, in the evaporator, enthalpy is going out at value of H1. Okay, so this will be equal to 0. So now the process 4 to 1 inside evaporator is actually constant pressure process. So VdP will be equal to 0. So we will be finding QL as equal to H4 minus H1. Okay, so now if you see, if instead of point number 4 to 1 we were using the turbine, then we would have QL dash, say equivalent amount of refrigeration effect. So that QL dash would have been H1 minus H4 dash, and as you can see, the enthalpy of point H4 dash is less in comparison to enthalpy of point 4. So that's why our QL dash would have been larger in comparison to QL. Okay. Yes.
Sir, there should be minus QL, the first equation.
No, here QL will be positive. Okay, so minus QL we used to write when we were using condenser. Over here we are having evaporator and we are adding heat into the evaporator. This point is clear?
Sir, it should be H1 minus H4.
Why it should be H1 minus H4? When we write the energy equation, we write the energy which is entering into the system, that we write as positive. Okay, I understood. So you are saying over here, this point. Yeah, this I have written wrongly. This should be H1 minus H4. But if you are talking about the generalized equation, in case of generalized equation, we are adding enthalpy at H4 with H4 magnitude, and we are removing enthalpy with H1 magnitude. So that's why H4 will be plus and H1 will be minus. Okay. This is, now you can see that QL for actual system I have got H1 minus H4, and QL dash I have got H1 minus H4 dash, and as I told you that H4 dash is less in comparison to H4, so that's why QL dash will be more in comparison to QL. Okay, so one important point we are able to see over here, that if we are replacing the turbine, with throttling device, we are having some decrease in refrigeration effect. Okay, for almost same amount of work input. Okay, so that point we are having, but still, as in case of turbine, it is first challenging to operate it in the wet region, and second point is that the work obtained from the turbine will be almost negligible in comparison to the compressor work. So that's why we are not having any gain upon employing the turbine over here, and it will not be justifying the cost. So that's why, though we are having some loss of refrigeration effect upon using the compressor, upon using the throttling device for same amount of work input, but still in our practical systems only throttling device is actually implemented. Okay, and if you see throttling device, mainly there are large number of devices: capillary tube, solenoid expansion devices, then automatic expansion devices. So many kind of devices are available, with the help of which we can actually achieve expansion process. Okay, one important point I would like to tell you, that over here, while we are doing the expansion process, when pressure is actually decreasing, with decrease in pressure, temperature of the working fluid is actually also decreasing. Okay, but if you recall to my earlier lecture, I told you that in case of throttling device, temperature may increase, may decrease, or it may remain constant. Okay, so this particular behavior is explained by our Joule-Thomson effect. So in the later part of this lecture, we will talk about this also. Okay, so this I have quantified over here, the refrigeration effect. So refrigeration effect over here is nothing but equal to H1 minus H4 if I write it on per kg basis. Okay, then if I show you the pressure and enthalpy diagram, that looks something like this. So this line 1 to 2 is nothing but a constant entropy line on pH diagram, and these are the constant pressure lines from 4 to 1 and 2 to 3, and this 3 to 4 is nothing but our constant enthalpy line over here. Okay, so this is whatever the same cycle previously I have shown on TS diagram, same I have represented on pH diagram. So why generally we represent this on pH diagram? Because it is easy to quantify the things. So this line over here, this represents the difference in between H1 minus H4. So that's why this line is nothing but equal to our refrigeration effect on per kg basis. Okay, and if I now write the equation for steady flow energy equation for compressor. So for compressor, we will be having Q. So Q will be 0 minus W in, that will be, then we are having enthalpy addition at rate H1 minus enthalpy is leaving at H2 equal to 0. So we will be finding our W in. W in. So W in, I will be putting over here positive sign because we are adding work to the system. So that's why this W in will be becoming equal to H2 minus H1. So this is the amount of work which we are adding. Okay. Similarly, I can calculate QH as equal to H2 minus H3, and for process number 3 to 4. So this is for process number 2 to 3, and for process number 3 to 4, already we have seen that H3 equal to H4. It's a constant enthalpy process. So now if you have to write down the COP for this device, so we know COP is QL, amount of refrigeration effect, divided by whatever the amount of work we are supplying. So that will be equal to refrigeration effect over here is H1 minus H4, and work input is actually H2 minus H1. So this is how I can calculate the COP of some refrigerating unit, okay, which is operating based on the ideal vapor compression cycle. So this is our household refrigerator. So in the household refrigerator, I would just like to highlight that where different components are located. Okay. So you can see this is our upper compartment. So this is our actually freezer compartment. So freezer compartment, for example, it is written that it is maintained at temperature of minus 18 degrees Celsius, and this is our lower compartment which is maintained at 3 degrees Celsius. Okay. So the coolest place over here is our upper compartment, which is at minus 18 degrees Celsius. So that's why evaporator coils. So you can see over here we are having some coils in the top portion of the freezer. These are nothing but our evaporator coils. Okay. So because this is the coolest place over here, so we will be passing all our evaporator coils to this freezer compartment. Okay. And after that, these evaporator coils then will be going to the compressor, and compressor normally we locate at the bottom portion. Okay, so this is where our compressor is located, and mainly it is located on the back side. Okay, and after the compressor, if you follow your diagram, after compressor, what we are having condenser, and then we are having expansion device. Okay, so then you can see after the compressor we are having some coils. So these are the coils on the back side of the refrigerator. So on the back side of the refrigerator, you can see this kind of structure. So this kind of black colored coils we are having. So these are our condenser coils. Okay, so refrigerant flows through these condenser coils, and while it reaches till the top portion, it reaches to close to saturated or subcooled liquid state. Okay, so it is in the saturated or subcooled liquid state. Okay, now after this condenser, then we are having the expansion device. So inside the expansion device, in our simple systems, we use capillary tube. So a tube of very small cross section we use, which will be leading to significant drop in pressure. Okay, so this is our capillary tube over here as expansion device, and then this is our surrounding room, which is maintained at 25 degrees Celsius. Okay. So now one important point, while we physically arrange different components, this condenser unit and compressor units are placed close to each other. So and both these units are actually are placed with their facing towards surroundings. So condenser and compressor units should be towards our surroundings, because in the compressor we will be actually compressing our substance, so we are having significant heat amount of heat generation in our compressor, and in the condenser our motive is to remove heat to the surrounding. So that's why condenser and compressor are mainly placed towards surroundings. And then while we are placing our this evaporator unit and expansion device, so evaporator unit and expansion device should be close to each other. Why these should be close to each other? You can see, for example, if I have to go till temperature of minus 18 degrees Celsius. So in case of minus 18 degrees Celsius, what will be happening? Over here, I will be having condenser, say at 30 degrees Celsius. So my state 3 is at 30 degrees Celsius and state 4 is at minus 18 degrees Celsius. So while I am doing the expansion, so inside this throttling device, at some point I will be having temperature as 25, at some point I will be having temperature as 10, some point I will be having 0, and at some point I will be having, say, minus 10 degrees Celsius. Okay, so like this, in the along the length of the capillary tube, we will be having temperature which will be actually decreasing. Okay, so we will be finding some situation along the length of the capillary tube where our temperature is actually below the surrounding temperature. So when our temperature is below the surrounding temperature, then there is opportunity for surrounding medium to transfer certain amount of heat into our working medium. Okay, so what we want to do, if we are adding certain heat from the external source which is actually not desirable, so in that case what will be happening, our the capacity of the working fluid to take amount of heat will be actually decreasing. Okay, so that's why what we want, we don't want any external heat transfer to take place in the expansion device or in the pipeline which is connecting our expansion device to the evaporator. So that's why we want to physically locate our expansion device and evaporator inlet as close as possible. Okay, so that we are not having any undesirable heat addition from the surrounding, which will be actually reducing the heat carrying capacity of our working substance. And if heat carrying capacity of working substance is reduced, then we have to use more amount of refrigerant for achieving same amount of refrigeration effect. Okay, so this is the typical layout of actually household refrigerator. So if you all can visualize the location of the different components. Okay, now let us talk about the actual vapor compression refrigeration cycle. So in case of actual vapor compression refrigeration cycle, first thing, we will be having inclusion of friction. Okay, so if we are having inclusion of friction, we will be having actually pressure drop in our different pipelines. Okay, so that's why you can see over here during the heat rejection process, over here during the heat rejection process, we are having some drop of pressure, as well as heat addition process in the evaporator coil, we are having drop of pressure. Similarly, in the heat rejection process in the condenser, we are having actually drop of pressure. That is first point. Now second point, if you see what we have done, point 7 to 8 I have shown evaporator inlet and evaporator outlet, and 1 and 2 I have shown as compressor inlet and compressor outlet. So this 8 to 1 is our tubing. So 8 to 1 is our tubing which connects evaporator outlet to condenser to compressor inlet. Similarly, 3 to 4 is condenser inlet to outlet. So this 2 to 3 is actually our tubing which connects compressor outlet to condenser inlet. Similarly, 4 to 5 we are having some tubings which connect condenser outlet to expansion inlet, and 6 to 7 we have some tubing which connects actually our expansion device outlet to evaporator inlet. Okay, so now what will be happening, if you see over here, if I take say point number 6, so my point number 6 is actually at the outlet of the expansion. As I told you, the temperature of point number 6 will be less in comparison to the surrounding temperature. So that's why whatever the tubing which will be connecting our point number 6 to evaporator inlet, here we will be having certain unwanted heat addition. Okay, so we will be having some unwanted heat addition over here. So because of the unwanted heat addition, my 6 point will be actually shifted towards right. Okay, so if you see, if we are not having unwanted heat addition, then my refrigeration effect will be from 6 to 8. But if I am having this unwanted heat addition, so my refrigeration effect will be now from 7 to 8. Okay, so this is one point. Then if you talk about 8 to 1, so at point number 8, we have added certain amount of heat. So after heat addition, we are having this state number 8 over here. But this state is once again at saturated vapor condition. So as it is at saturated vapor condition, so its temperature is actually once again low. So temperature of 0.8 is also less in comparison to temperature of surrounding. Okay, so because of this, what will be happening? In point number 8, from point number 8 to point number 1 also we will be having some unwanted heating of the substance. Okay, now if you see at the exit of the compressor, we will be having temperature something around 50 to 60 degrees Celsius. So as we are having high temperature than the surrounding temperature, so we will be having some heat loss from point number 2 to 3. Okay, so we will be having some heat loss from point number 2 to 3 over here. Okay, and then if I talk about point number 4 to 5, once again it is close to the slightly above than the ambient temperature. So here also we will be having some heat loss from point number 4 to 5. But both these heat loss 2 to 3 and 4 to 5 are actually desirable. Okay. Now one important point I would like to highlight. So point number 5 to 6 is actually isenthalpic process, so that we need not to worry much. But if we talk about the compressor section, in the compressor section you can see I have represented different points. One point I have represented as 1 to 2 and one point I have represented as 1 to 2 dash. Okay, so if you see point number 1 to 2 dash, 1 to 2, you will be finding that this is my isentropic line over here. So this is my isentropic line over here, for which entropy is constant. So while I am showing this line number 1 to 2, I am showing certain amount of entropy generation. So you can see entropy of point 2 is more in comparison to the entropy of point 1. So that's why this point number 1 to 2 represents over here, this S2 minus S1 is nothing but it represents the entropy generation over here. And this entropy generation will be there inside the compressor because of some irreversibilities, and some of the common irreversibilities are friction in between the piston and cylinder, etc. Okay, so over here we are having some irreversibility, and that irreversibility will lead to increase in entropy. So our point will be from 1 to 2. Now one more point we have shown over here for compressor process, and that we have shown as 1 to 2 dash. Okay, so now if you see inside this compressor, what will be happening? At the inlet of the compressor, you can see our substance is at close to 0 degrees Celsius. And while we are compressing this substance at the outlet of compressor, we are having substance at 50 to 60 degrees Celsius. Okay, so now I was now discussing about process number 1 to 2 dash. So during process 1 to 2 dash, what will be happening? Now you can see inside our compressor at inlet point, we are having temperature as close to 0 degrees Celsius, and at the outlet point, we are having temperature 50 to 60 degrees Celsius, which is very high in comparison to the surrounding temperature. Okay, so it means in the compressor, we are having high temperature. So that's why what will be happening in the compressor, we will be having certain amount of heat loss into the surrounding. So we know ds is nothing but equal to integral del q by t plus S generation. Okay, so we have seen that S generation part, because of the friction is coming, that part we are representing for process number 1 to 2 on this diagram, and we are having some del Q by T portion also. So in case of compressor, what will be happening? Our working substance will be actually having high temperature. Our working substance will be having high temperature near the outlet of the compressor. So that's why we will be having certain amount of heat rejection. Okay, so that negative heat transfer will try to actually decrease the entropy. So 1 to 2 days represents entropy loss because of heat transfer. Okay, so this is which happens inside the compressor. Now if we have to combine both these processes, so in actual what we are having certain amount of entropy generation also, and we are having certain amount of entropy decrease also because of the heat transfer. Okay, so if we have to couple both these effects, so we will be finding our actual compression line something like this. Okay, so this is my actual compression line. So I will be having some point 2 double dash over here at the exit of compressor. So what is happening when we are having when we are close to the inlet of the compressor, at that time our heat transfer effect will not be that much dominant. So that's why during the inlet or near the inlet portion of the compressor, we will be having positive entropy generation. And when we have increased the pressure to certain level where our temperature is above the surrounding temperature inside the compressor, then we will be having more dominance of the heat transfer. So because of which we will be having decrease in actually decrease in entropy. Okay, so that's why process number 1 to 2 double dash represents actually actual compression process inside our refrigeration cycle. Okay, so now if you have to find out the work of compression, that will be nothing but equal to H2 double dash minus H1, and ideal work of compression will be equal to say H3 minus H1 if I consider 3 and 1 are having same entropy. So you can see while we are having this heat transfer in our compression process, in case of this compressor device, it is actually helping us in saving certain amount of work. Okay, so majority of the time we say that irreversibilities always causes some additional load on our unit, but in case of compressor device, if we are having any irreversibility, that will be actually helpful in decreasing our amount of work which we are supplying to the unit. Okay, so this is all about the actual vapor compression refrigeration system. So initially I thought to talk about Joule-Thomson effect